Judas's betrayal may be the most famous one in all of history, not only because of whom he betrays, but also because of who he is. Not an enemy outsider who has been with Jesus from the start. What could be more treacherous than that? Because we know how things turn out in the end, we tend to imagine him as a fringe member of the group. The suspicious-looking redhead who is always standing off to one side. It is not true. If anything, he is the most trusted of the 12 friends, the one whom they put in charge of the money box. It is his job to keep food on the table for them and for the poor people they serve. They trust him to manage their resources and to share them wisely, because Judas is one of them. He is Jesus' friend. He has walked hundreds of miles with them and sat talking around the campfire with them and slept out under the stars with them. Judas was there at the wedding in Cana when Jesus turned water into wine. And he was there when 5,000 people stuffed themselves on. He saw the lame man pick up his pallet and walk. And he watched the blind man's eyes focus for the first time. He was there when Jesus shouted Lazarus from his tomb. And he has just had his feet. Did all this. If Judas had really been the odd man out, the others would have known right away whom Jesus was talking about at dinner that night. But they did not. Very truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me, he said. And they all stopped chewing. They could not imagine who it might be. You think you know someone well, and find out that you do not. Betrayal by strangers is hard enough, but betrayal by those closest to you is a killer. It destroys trust. It deadens the heart. In Dante's Inferno, the lowest circle of hell is reserved for such traitors. There, Judas, Brutus, and Cassius are frozen in ice for all eternity. But even Dante is clear that it is Judas Iscariot who will suffer the most, for he betrayed his friend with a kiss. It is entirely possible that this betrayal is the deepest pain Jesus will undergo in the days to come. To be abandoned than the rest of the inner circle, than the treachery of the crowd, to be stabbed from behind by those who know him best. This is as wounding as the fat nails that finally pin him to the cross. But it is not possible to understand Judas without understanding Jesus as well, because Judas does not act. His choice is a chilling one, but it is not the only one in the story. Jesus makes choices too, choices that may change the way we see the one Judas makes. I don't know anyone who doesn't wonder about Judas' role in the drama. Was he a true villain or a divine pawn? Going to be fulfilled, then someone had to betray Jesus. Do quickly what you have to do. That is how it reads in the New English Bible, as an assignment, not a choice. Was Judas really the bad guy? Or was he just the unlucky one who drew the short straw? And if he was the bad guy, then why? Was it or was it deep disappointment that Jesus had not turned out to be the kind of Messiah Judas had hoped he would be? According to legend, Judas was the zealot among Jesus' disciples, the one who was ready to fight the Romans to the death and who longed for a Messiah who would lead the battle. He was the one who had a real crown in mind for Jesus, not a circlet. Jesus was not going to meet his expectations. It was Judas who believed he had been betrayed. And if that is what led him to do what he did, then God knows he was not the first or last human being who turned murderous when someone he loved failed to make his dreams. Whatever Judas' degree of guilt and whatever his motive, it is extremely important to note that Jesus identifies his betrayer by feeding him, not by turning over the table and casting him out, not by tying him to his chair so he cannot carry out his plan, but by feeding him, dipping a morsel into his own cup he has just washed, bathing them with warm water and drying them with the towel he wears around his waist. Knowing who Judas is and what he is about to do, Jesus does not throw him out. He bathes him and feeds him, which means that Judas is never excluded from the circle of friends. He is included until he excludes himself. And when he goes out, John tells us it is night. Inside of him and outside of him, as desolate can be. But as soon as he is gone, Jesus begins speaking not of despair, but of the Son of humanity has been glorified, he says, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. What a lot of glory! Has Judas turned the power off or on? Set everything in motion. Soon the soldiers will come and the crowd will cry for blood and the sentence will be pronounced, "Crucify him." Soon Jesus will be scourged and crowned and lifted high on the cross. It will not look like glory to anyone but God. But Jesus knows. He knows that his death will shine light for him to practice what he has been preaching. It is time to lay down his life for his friends. But before he does, he gives them a new commandment, that they love one another as he is about to love them. That is how people will know who they are. manifesting God's liberating and radical love that seeks always the good of the other, constitutes their very identity. It is Jesus' last will and testament and their community charter as well. Everything else he has taught them is important, but this is crucial. Their love for one another will be the one true mark of their discipleship. Not their knowledge, not their piety, not their good works, but that death-defying love that is his glory. And Judas? What about Judas? He has excluded himself from this community and from this final teaching. A message that might have saved his life had he stayed to hear it. But he has not stayed. He has disappeared into the night, kicking the rock that will bring the avalanche down upon them. He has removed himself beyond their reach. Judas the sinner, the devil in disciples' clothing, the traitor frozen in the lowest circle of hell, who deserves everything he gets and more. But here is what I want to know. Does Jesus die for him too? When he lays down his life for his friends, does that include Judas? The one who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me, Jesus said just moments before we tuned in. He was quoting Psalm, which tells us that he knew all along, knew that one of those sitting around his table would turn on him, and if he had been anyone else, he would have started watching what he said around them, holding himself back until he could ferret out the traitor and expel him, or worse. But he was not someone else. He was the Messiah who washed his friends' feet, knowing full well one of them would betray him. One of them would betray him. He was the Savior who went on giving himself away to the one who would give him away, because his faithfulness did not depend on theirs. When he dipped the morsel in his cup and handed it to Judas, he not only revealed who Judas was, he also revealed who he was. The one who feeds his enemies, who goes on treating them as friends, loving them to the end. What that means, I think, is that Judas is indispensable to our understanding of this night, this foot washing, this Holy Communion. Judas, of all people. His presence at the Last Supper is our lasting reminder that these events are not only for the good, the right, the faithful among us, but also for the crooks and double-crossers, the spies, and the imposters. It will reveal us for who we are. Make no mistake about that. And that knowledge may send us running from the room into the desolate night. But it may also allow us to stay put, clinging to the edge of the table for dear life if need be, or better yet, clinging to the presence of the Redeemer at the head of the table, whose faithfulness does not depend on ours, and whose death-defying love knows no end in life-giving water and gives us the food and drink that saves our lives, thawing our frozen hearts by taking them into his own. He is the broken, poured out one who gives himself to us, offering to cleanse us and feed us again and again and again. Dear people of God,